Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're here, as always, to take some really rich source material and break it down into useful knowledge for you, giving you that kind of shortcut to really understanding complex topics. Today, we're jumping back into our ongoing conversation, continuing this deep dive into finding balance in a world that just demands so much, using the philosophy of Lóng Tíng.
Absolutely. And this specific source text, it focuses on what the author calls the ecology of human energy. It's a fascinating lens, really. It pushes us past, the usual time management hacks. Instead, it asks you to look at your daily life, your mind, your body, your interactions as this single interconnected energy system.
An energy system, I like that.
Exactly. So our mission here is to use this text like a mirror, a really clear one, hopefully. We want to help you pinpoint what's truly draining you, and often it's the subtle stuff, and just as importantly, what genuinely restores you. How can you actually generate energy, not just spend it?
That framing feels so important, shifting from just managing time to managing energy. And that really hits the core idea, doesn't it? That we are constantly always exchanging energy.
Relentlessly.
Yeah, with people, with the tasks we do, even with memories or, the silence or the noise around us. Something's always going out. Something's always coming in. And if we don't watch that flow, if we ignore those little leaks, well, we end up running on empty, right? Often without even knowing why.
That's the crux of it. We're often unaware of the silent culprits. And when we talk about these culprits, these takers, as the text calls them, we're really talking about subtlety. They don't usually show up with like a big dramatic entrance. It's not a thunderclap demanding attention.
No fireworks?
No, none at all. They sort of creep in quietly. Often they're disguised as just normal life.
Yeah.
Accepted habits, things like constantly multitasking or scrolling through news feeds endlessly, or maybe always feeling like you have to say yes to every request.
Oh, definitely felt that last one.
Right. And because the effect is gradual, like a slow puncture in a tire, we just normalize it. We think, that's just how it is, until we're completely drained.
Just thinking about it is exhausting. But the source gives us this amazing diagnostic tool here, this concept. That the external mirrors the internal. Let's make that concrete. The author talks a lot about clutter.
Yes, physical clutter.
It's not just messiness, is it? It's described as this physical sign of inner chaos. Every pile of papers, every notification popping up, it's like it's whispering to your subconscious, you don't have time, you can't even breathe properly.
Exactly that. A constant low-level hum of demand. It just eats up cognitive energy without giving anything back.
So clutter isn't just about looks, it's an energy thief.
Absolutely. Every time your eye catches that pile, your brain logs it.
Huh.
Unresolved task. That's energy you could be using for, focus or creativity. So if your environment is screaming, no time, no control, the immediate fix the author suggests is creating intentional space.
Intentional space.
Yes. Clarity starts there. Clear a drawer, clear your desk surface, just one small physical space. And then try to translate that physical boundary into a mental one.
Okay, but I need to push back a bit here. Because for a lot of people listening, especially if they're already feeling drained, the idea of creating stillness might sound like just one more thing to do, another task.
Yeah.
How does the source differentiate between just stopping, which can feel like laziness, and, real stillness?
That's a really crucial point, and the text is very clear on this. Stillness needs intention. If we don't actively choose it, if we don't weave it into our rhythm, then just stopping activity doesn't lead to peace. It actually breeds stagnation.
Stagnation.
Okay. Stagnation is just sort of waiting passively for the next thing to drain you. But intentional rest, true stillness, that's an active choice. It's about returning to yourself, letting your brain integrate things, allowing your nervous system to actually calm down. It generates energy. So spending 5 minutes consciously clearing your desk, or even just taking 3 deep mindful breaths, that's an act of generation. It's not passive. It's building a container for clarity.
Got it. So it's not about avoiding tasks. It's about actively creating these pockets of restoration. We need to be architects of our own space, our own energy environment.
Precisely. Stop accepting those small daily erosions and become proactive.
Okay, let's dive into the first category of these silent drains, the ones that operate inside our heads, the mental and emotional traps. The source uses some powerful metaphors here. Let's start with memory. It says the past is meant to be a teacher, right? But it can't be a home.
That's a beautiful way to put it. The issue comes when we confuse reflecting on the past with just ruminating, getting stuck there. Yes, the past has lessons, absolutely. But when we stay there too long, Mentally replaying old hurts, old arguments, maybe even old successes that don't serve us anymore.
Yeah, reliving the glory days, maybe.
Or the painful days.
Yeah.
Either way, the lessons don't guide us forward anymore. They harden. They become these mental walls trapping us in what was. And that rumination, it takes a huge amount of ongoing mental effort. It's a constant energy drain because your nervous system literally re-experiences the stress each time.
Wow, okay. So the past becomes a wall.
Oh, yeah.
And related to that, the source describes resentment. It calls it the most silent poison.
Mm.
Why silent? Because it doesn't just make you unhappy, it costs energy just to hold on to the bitterness.
Exactly. You're essentially paying this emotional tax every single day on something that's already over. It requires constant internal energy just to maintain that feeling. It eats joy from the inside out.
And that connects directly to negativity, which the author describes so vividly as gravity without light. That's a striking image.
Isn't it? And this is a key distinction. Negativity often masquerades as realism. It feels mature to be pessimistic about a tough situation. But the text warns that this kind of negativity is often just despair in disguise. It's a mental habit that actively looks for proof of failure and ignores signs of possibility.
So it pulls you down like gravity.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah.
It forces you to use enormous energy just to try and make a change because your own internal viewpoint is constantly resisting, pulling you back. The source argues that realism without hope is basically self-sabotage. It drains the very energy you need to change the situation you're being realistic about.
That completely reframes pessimism for me. It's not just a view, it's an energy-draining practice. Speaking of draining practices, stress, we've almost made it a badge of honor, haven't we? That chronic feeling of being under siege.
It's become an identity for so many.
Yeah. The source says when stress becomes our identity, we actually lose our humanity. We're not built to sprint through life like it's one long emergency. That constant high alert state, it just burns through our internal fuel, doesn't it? Keeping cortisol and adrenaline pumped up.
It's incredibly taxing on the system. It might be one of the biggest hidden energy takers in modern professional life, constantly running the fight or flight response.
And that state is constantly being poked and prodded, especially by our screens. Let's talk about the digital drain on bandwidth. The source says every screen radiates a demand: attention, reaction, stimulation.
But rarely stillness. That's the key.
Why are screens specifically so draining, though? We use them for everything: work, news, connection. They feel unavoidable.
They often are unavoidable, which is exactly why awareness is so critical. Think about it. Our nervous system evolved over millennia attuned to the slow, predictable rhythms of nature. Sunrise, sunset, seasons changing.
Okay, yeah. Not exactly the same as notifications popping up every 2 seconds.
Right. It wasn't designed for this endless brightness, the flashing lights, the constant context switching, the sheer volume of new information hitting us. This barrage forces our brain into hypervigilance. You get these little dopamine hits from notifications, which feel good for a second.
The reward loop.
Yes, but they're immediately followed by cortisol spikes because of the constant interruption. You get the little reward, but the cost is the underlying stress of never being able to fully settle your focus.
And that constant demand, that noise, feeds right into the comparison trap, especially with social media. The source calls it a web of mirrors, where we measure our own messy, real lives against these perfectly polished illusions.
And that drains emotional bandwidth catastrophically. Connection is supposed to build empathy, understanding, right? But when we use it mainly for comparison, we're consciously choosing a massive, unnecessary energy drain. We're fueling inadequacy instead of connection.
Which leads us to another big drain: just being busy all the time. Busyness itself. The source suggests overworking is often fear disguised as dedication.
It's a fascinating point. We mix up being active with being productive, but often busyness is the body's way of, well, actively avoiding silence. It's a strategy, maybe unconscious, to keep uncomfortable truths at bay. Truths about maybe being the wrong job or relationship problems or deeper desires we're ignoring. As long as you keep moving, you don't have to listen.
So busyness as a distraction from the self. And that highlights why silence is so important. It's where the truth is waiting. If we never pause, we never hear it. This relates to another drain: information consumption.
Oh, absolutely, the sheer volume. The source says the art of modern wisdom is learning to stay informed without being consumed. Because information overload, taking in data, news, threats, work, demands faster than we can possibly process or integrate it.
Right.
It doesn't lead to knowledge. It leads to anxiety.
Yeah, you become an expert on all the problems but feel totally powerless.
Exactly. Paralyzed by analysis. It drains your capacity to act. We need wisdom to filter, to structure information so it serves us, doesn't just trigger panic.
And finally, under these silent drains, we have to look at biological sabotage, how we treat our bodies. The author's line, "What we eat is what we become," seems simple, but the energy implication is huge. Artificial flavors, processed foods, they numb awareness.
They dull our sensitivity to what our body actually needs. Sustained energy, clean hydration, natural rhythms. It creates this disconnect. Your body gets calories maybe, but not the vital structure, the micronutrients that support real cellular energy and mental clarity. It's like running a high-performance car on cheap, dirty fuel. It just won't perform optimally.
And let's touch on maybe the most common form of this, what the source calls borrowed peace, using things like alcohol as a quick escape. It's described as borrowing tomorrow's peace.
It's basically energy deficit spending. You get that momentary relief because alcohol chemically dampens the nervous system, feels like relaxation. But the underlying issues, the stress, the anxiety, whatever drove you to seek escape, they're still there, completely unresolved. Plus, it disrupts sleep, often causes rebound anxiety the next day, depletes mental reserves. The debt always comes due, usually with interest. That borrowed peace ensures the cycle continues.
A tough cycle to break.
Okay, so recognizing those takers is step one. Absolutely necessary. But step two is where the power really lies, deliberately choosing the givers. The architects of renewal. These are practices that help us remember what we've lost touch with: balance, breath, just being. And it has to start with the power of stillness and rhythm. We need to fundamentally redefine true rest.
Right, because we often think rest is just stopping, doing nothing. And then we feel guilty about it. But the source says true rest is actually active.
It is active internally. True rest isn't just the absence of action, which we mistake for laziness. It's the return to self. It's integration. It's the invisible repair work happening behind the scenes that allows for visible strength later. When you're truly resting, your brain is busy consolidating memories, processing emotions, getting your body chemistry ready for the next period of activity.
So it's essential preparation, not laziness at all.
Not at all. It's the foundation that sustains everything else.
And absolutely central to that is sleep. The author calls it the workshop of renewal. Most of us know sleep is important, but why is the rhythm part so critical?
Because without a strong, predictable rhythm, a consistent sleep-wake cycle, ideally guided by natural light, our body's internal clock, the circadian rhythm, gets completely confused. It loses its bearings. When that happens, those crucial restorative sleep stages like REM and deep wave sleep, they become erratic and less effective. The renewal workshop isn't running efficiently.
Makes sense.
And the source makes this powerful link to leadership, too. It says, leadership without rest just becomes noise without music. It's frantic, lacks clarity, driven by adrenaline, not real insight. So those rituals of rest, like having a wind-down routine, cutting down on blue light before bed, keeping a regular schedule, even on weekends, they aren't optional luxuries. They're the bedrock of resilience.
Okay, moving beyond our internal state, the source points us outwards, back to nature, the oldest medicine. It says the earth always recalibrates us when we step outside. That sounds lovely, but what does it mean practically?
Well, it's both poetic and grounded in physiology. When we step into a natural environment, our heart rate variability often improves almost instantly. That chaotic noise of the city gets replaced by natural patterns, fractal patterns in leaves or branches, sounds of wind or water. These things actually soothe our nervous system. The source suggests every tree teaches patience, standing firm through seasons. Every wave reminds us of impermanence, that natural flow of energy, release, return.
And there's a direct biological connection too, right? So especially with sunlight, it's called a universal antidepressant.
Light on the skin is memory. That's a quote from the source. It's this ancient code our bodies remember from long before cities and artificial light. Sunlight helps regulate serotonin for mood, vitamin D for immunity. It synchronizes our entire internal clock, signaling wakefulness and setting us up for rest later. Ignoring natural light is like ignoring a key part of our own operating instructions.
Renewal also needs movement. But again, the source reframes this. It's not about punishing workouts or hitting arbitrary targets. It's conscious movement, flow, not just fitness.
Exactly. We're designed to flow dance, walk, stretch gently. Movement isn't just about sculpting the body. It's about freeing the mind. When energy gets stuck inside from stress, from rumination, movement is the release valve. It lets that trapped kinetic energy, that emotional stiffness, dissolve. It prevents stagnation. It's often the quickest way to shift your mental state just by shifting your physical state.
And the most accessible tool for instant recalibration, the one we probably ignore the most, breath. Breathing consciously, the source says, actually rewires the nervous system.
How? Because breath is the bridge. It connects your conscious mind directly to your autonomic nervous system, the part that runs fight or flight or rest and digest. So by choosing to breathe slowly, deliberately, maybe a simple count like in for 4, out for 6, you send a direct, undeniable signal of safety to your body, particularly through the vagus nerve. This instantly helps shift you out of that stressed sympathetic state into the calmer parasympathetic state. We can ignore our breath all day, but just 3 intentional deep breaths can anchor you right back in the present, stopping that energy leak towards future worries or past regrets. It's the oldest technology of presence we have.
Powerful and always available. We also need to be intentional about physical inputs. Let's talk about water. Water's wisdom.
Water is wisdom, yes. It's the fundamental transport system for energy in the body. Dehydration immediately hits your mood, your thinking, your cell's ability to function. Forgetting water is, as the source says, forgetting life itself. And the text elevates the simple act of drinking. Doing it slowly, consciously, restores that circuit between body and earth. Instead of just gulping it down, savoring it, turns it into a small ritual. Each sip becomes potentially not just hydration, but like a tiny prayer in motion, a small act of coming home to your own body.
That same mindful approach needs to apply to food. To nourishment, conscious eating starts with respect.
Respect for the food, respect for the process, respect for yourself. Whole food connects us back to nature's rhythm in a way processed food just can't. The source suggests food that still remembers the sun carries something vital, something alive within it, the coherent energy of the earth and light. Choosing whole, unprocessed foods gives your internal ecosystem clean, efficient fuel. It supports awareness rather than demanding huge energy for complex digestion and detoxification.
Respecting the fuel makes perfect sense.
Okay, so we've covered the physical and environmental inputs. Now we need to look at internal energy management, what the author terms energy reclamation. And right at the heart of this is forgiveness.
Right. This is often a really tough one for people. We tend to equate forgiveness with saying what happened was okay, or forgetting about it. If resentment traps energy, how does forgiveness actually reclaim it?
The source frames it as radical self-interest, actually. Forgiveness isn't about approving of what happened. It's not about forgetting, necessarily. It's the powerful act of choosing to free up the enormous amount of energy that's been stuck in that memory, that you've been spending daily just maintaining the bitterness or hurt. When you forgive, you decide to stop paying that emotional tax on the past. You cut the cord connecting your present vitality to that old injury, and that reclaimed energy, it can flow again into your life now, into creating something new.
So it's less about the other person, more about freeing yourself. And reclaiming energy also often requires courage. We usually think of courage as these huge dramatic acts, but the source reframes it.
Completely. It says courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's just that quiet whisper inside, that moment of self-compassion that says, okay, I'll try again. That whispery reconnects us with our authentic selves. Fear, the text points out, keeps us safe. Until it starts keeping us small, we spend energy masking, pretending, hiding what we really need or feel. Authenticity, on the other hand, inherently gives energy because you stop paying the cost of maintaining a facade. Acting despite fear, even in a small, quiet way, being honest, being vulnerable, that gives us our power back.
And perhaps the biggest factor in whether we drain or gain energy is our perspective, how we choose to see things. Gratitude is positioned as the antidote to scarcity.
Yes, because scarcity thinking is a major drain. It constantly focuses on what's missing, what might go wrong, what we lack. Gratitude flips that switch. It actively multiplies what we notice. It forces your brain to scan for and register what you do have, existing resources, health, support, moments of beauty. To consciously give thanks is to acknowledge life's flow, even when things are hard. And that simple cognitive shift conserves energy that would otherwise be wasted on worry and lack.
And this ties into positivity, which, as we said earlier, isn't about pasting on a fake smile. It's defined as a chosen perspective.
Exactly. It doesn't mean denying pain or difficulty. You acknowledge the reality of the challenge, you see the facts, but you actively choose a perspective that gives that pain or difficulty direction. You look for the potential for growth, for learning, for change, instead of just giving in to despair. It's the difference between active hope and passive resignation. Resignation is an energy drain. Chosen perspective generates forward motion.
Okay, let's bring this back to our connections with others. Because energy flow isn't just internal, is it? It's relational, ethical even.
Very much so. Energy shared within a healthy environment, the source argues, is energy multiplied. A healthy community, whether that's family, friends, a work team, It nourishes you. It doesn't just demand from you. It acts like a generator, offering support, different perspectives, encouragement. It doesn't become another silent taker requiring constant emotional labor to maintain. The quality of our connections profoundly impacts our energy reserves.
And a powerful act, relationally and personally, that conserves energy is simplifying.
Simplifying isn't about loss. It's about reclaiming capacity. It's about clearing out the external clutter, too many commitments, possessions, obligations to make real space for your inner life, for deep work. When we simplify the demands on us, we free up energy for things like curiosity. Curiosity is described as energy in motion, learning a new skill, exploring a new idea. It reawakens the brain, keeps things fresh, humbles the ego a bit. It prevents that internal stagnation we talked about.
It's really compelling how the source weaves personal well-being together with a wider sense of responsibility. It states that energy is relational, ethical, and even planetary.
Yes, drawing heavily on that Eastern wisdom where the individual is never truly separate from the whole. The way you manage your own personal energy ecosystem directly impacts the kind of space you create for others around you. It affects your capacity for patience, for generosity, for thoughtful action versus reactive behavior. The source suggests that real leadership in this century requires understanding this. Well-being isn't just self-care in isolation, it's fundamentally world care. By protecting our own inner rhythm, we contribute positively to the rhythm of the world through our presence and actions.
It really feels like we are these travelers, constantly navigating between energy loss and renewal. But awareness, that honest awareness of the flow, that's the compass that keeps bringing us back.
And that leads perfectly to the core practice, the one takeaway action that distills all this philosophy. After all the lists and ideas, the most vital practice you can adopt, starting right now, is simply to pause. Just pause, anchor yourself for a moment, and ask with genuine honesty, is what I'm doing right now, this specific task, this conversation I'm in, even this thought pattern, is it giving me energy or is it taking it away?
Just that simple question.
Just that simple, honest question.
And if we can answer that honestly and then adjust gently, not with harsh self-judgment, but just with that quiet curiosity, like a scientist observing their own energy field, then we're already leading ourselves, aren't we? And the final thought is, when we protect our own energy, we are, in a way, protecting the world's rhythm through us. From that place of inner clarity, that restored flow, everything else starts to work better. Productivity, peace, connection, it all begins to flow again.